What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Early Edge NFL Kickoff Show, brought to you by BetMGM, the sportsbook. Born in Vegas, Will Brinson here, along with Mackenzie Brooks, Sia Nejad, and Danny Brasco. We have a barn burner this evening. Current reigning number one overall pick. I don't know if that's how that works. Whatever. Caleb Williams. I don't know. Taking on current or former Offensive Rookie of the Year and number 2 overall pick, CJ Stroud, and then what should be an excellent matchup between the Texans and the Bears. How's everybody doing tonight? No Propstarz tonight, by the way. For those asking in the chat, somebody will.
Yeah, we'll try our best to make up for him, answer all the questions we can. But yeah, I'm feeling good. This Chiefs-Bengals game is really coming down to the wire. Everything it seems like we hope for, so got to keep our eyes on that.
I've got this game going on in the background. By the way, I'm not feeling great. I'm 0 for 2 on picks today. I've got 2 picks for the show, so I'm hoping to bounce back to pull up to 500 on the day.
See, yeah, I'm alongside with you. I had the Rams. They're getting drubbed right now.
Oh, no, they got drubbed. That game's over.
Yeah.
I had the Rams too. They got drubbed. And Cooper Kupp seen in a walking boot after the game as well, which
classic.
Not to make excuses, but I mean, if you lose Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp in the first 2 weeks, you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah, bad for my Rams futures. But looking to this game, Brinson, I'm excited to see Caleb Williams, who joined rare company in week 1. He's one of 4 quarterbacks since 2000 to throw 25 or more pass attempts and less than 100 passing yards. Do you know who he joins? Brett Hundley, Desmond Ridder, and shout out my guy, Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito, the Jeremy Lin-esque sensation. What a run he had one time for Tommy Cutlets.
I had some delicious eggplant parmesan last night. If that's a decent segue.
Lovely.
It sounds like you guys are all just really due tonight. I feel like everyone's in a good buy low spot. We're about to start churning out green check marks given the way earlier today went. That's what
all right. As I rapidly improve my hosting skills with StreamYard in my 3,000th voyage of StreamYard, I will be starring any comments in the chat that have questions for this game. So if you've got a prop, like somebody asked about Cole Kmet, we'll get to it in the player prop section. But let's dive into this game itself. We do have some, I think, actually very important inactives and actives news. Keenan Allen is out of this game with a heel injury. Old fat Keenan. Shout out 336. Rome Odunze is active for the game, and Damian Pierce, backup Texans running back, also inactive. So notable from the passing perspective with the Bears. You know, we'll see some shifting and some movement, and what will Shane Waldron do? I mean, I think that's a good question, right, Ken? Like, how do we think this impacts? Like you would think more of the offense funnels through DJ Moore, maybe through Rome Odunze, although Odunze banged up. You got to be a little careful with those props because of that, right?
Yeah, well, you know what? That makes me like a prop I'm going to talk about later, too, with Cole Kmet. I mean, he just didn't see a ton of action. I see no reason why he won't see a ton of action this week. So it wasn't even about the other tight end. I think it was just about Caleb not playing that well. I think, we'll get into all of that. However, I think this is a good time to get in on Cole Kmet.
All right. Sia, I'm curious what you think. The Damian Pierce thing is interesting because I believe he was inactive in week 1 with, and I can't remember if Cam Akers was active or not, but it should have been a clear-cut signal to us in week 1 that Joe Mixon was going to be this lumbering workhorse for the Texans, and he was just that. It could mean more Joe Mixon in week 2 as well.
Joe Mixon got 90% of the backfield touches in week 1. And honestly, there's really no reason for the Texans to go away from that. It's part of the reason I think this is such a troubling spot for the Chicago Bears, because we know offensively they're not exactly kicking it in gear, but I'm not sure they can contain this run and pass game both at the same time. So I think it's going to be, we'll get into my picks later as well, but this seems like to some people an efficient line at -6, but I'm questioning how the Bears keep up.
Yeah, Texans are a juggernaut, quite frankly. We heard from Gus Bradley after the week 1 game, and he's like, and part of the thing with Joe Mixon, he's like, we were scared. I mean, I'm paraphrasing here. He's like, we were scared of these wide receivers, so we gave them light boxes all day long, and they just pounded Joe Mixon, and he ran, I think, 30 times for 150 plus yards. By the way, this is kind of a key game for survivor purposes. Absolute carnage in the streets this week. I think that the Circus Survivor Pool, which is $1,000 to enter, 14 million to first place or something insane like that. Winner take all. And by the way, shout out to the 22 people who in week 2 forgot to put their pick in. Like, what are you doing? I mean, like, did you disappear off the view? Put $1,000 down and you forgot to make a pick in week 2. There's 22 of you and like half the field is eliminated. That's insane. The Ravens lose, Cowboys lose, Lions lose, Niners lose. I believe they're down after starting at 14,000 people to begin the season, already down under 5,000 people with 44% of those remaining entries having the Texans tonight. If the Bears pull a stunner and you're alive heading to week 3 in a survivor pool, you feel great about life.
Yeah, I fear I had the Ravens this week in Survivor, so I'm feeling very unhappy with that. Almost went Chargers, didn't go Chargers, went Ravens.
So
but it means we're all due tonight, right, guys?
Is this the
yes, that we did on air?
Yeah, it just means you don't have to do the segment anymore.
I know. They keep sticking me in this in that studio alone, the podcast studio, in the gambling cave alone for that segment. I'm like, why can't I go in the big studio with everyone else in there? They're like,
I joked. I had the Bengals in week 1. I was like, whatever, I'll take the Bengals. It's not for money. I don't care. And I joked that I was like, I want the Patriots because so I can get eliminated and I have to do the segment. Turns out that was actually the move, was the Patriots. We had 6 entries in a monster pool, me and a couple friends, 4 Ravens, 2 Texans. And I got talked off of, I wanted to put all 6 on the Chargers because the Chargers are good and the Panthers are not good. But nevertheless, here we are. All right, let's get to the game itself. Sia. Texans -6.
Yeah, it's the Texans for me. I don't want to overreact to Caleb Williams week 1, but the thing is, going into the season, I wasn't really big on Caleb Williams as it was. And I do think when you're talking about a rookie quarterback, it's a lot easier to overreact to 1 week with a rookie quarterback than it would be a veteran who might have had a bad game week 1. So when I look at both sides of the ball, I think the Texans are super formidable with the running game and with the passing game. I think their defense is solid as well, the defensive line in particular. Caleb Williams is just, I just don't think he can get it done. The running game wasn't very efficient last week either. So for me, I think they end up running away. I think this line is probably right at 6. I would have probably put it at 7. And that's why I like this line at -6. And in fact, I put it on SportsLine. I was able to get it at 5.5, but 6 is fine as well.
I think I forgot to put my picks on SportsLine this week, which is actually a good thing for me and for SportsLine and the users because my picks were terrible. We're terrible this week. By the way, Kins, shout out to new number 1 in the country, the Texas Longhorns.
All right. We're going to rep till we die.
A buddy of mine who's a Georgia, went to Georgia, is a huge Georgia fan. Obviously, he's like, that's just Kirby playing 4D chess. He doesn't want us to be number 1. People want. He's like, let Texas be number 1. Everybody takes their best shots. What do you think? What is the model? What do you think about Texas, and what does the model think about this game?
So we're pretty much in line with the odds makers here. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes there won't be a ton of value. I know we have a graphic here to throw up here for that as well. We had it 54% of Houston to cover when it was 6.5. So obviously that goes up now that it's at 6, like that even better. We look at the Texans last week, their run D seemed to struggle against the combo of a mobile quarterback and running back. I don't think they'll run into the same problems here, the way Caleb Williams or lack thereof mobility there was last week. So also, again, the model is kind of looking at that game against the Titans and realizing that Will Levis beat himself. It wasn't exactly the Bears beating Will Levis. So I think there's still some value on Houston here. I think they're a much more comfortable team and a healthier team right now.
I must once again request that my 10-year-old son, who's out in the living room eating pizza, please keep it clean in the YouTube chat, Robert. He say that in the voice we use for our dog George. He's like, you need help. He's saying you need help. It's an inside joke no one's getting, and I'm leaning into it because I'm an idiot as well. Danny, what do you think about this side and this total?
Yeah, I like a lot of the points that Sia and Ken's made. I think they're going to complement why I like the under 45.5. And before I get into it, let me just invite you on my under journey, my primetime under journey. I intend to bet every single primetime under this season. And honestly, regardless of the matchup, I'm going to put 1 unit on each one. And I think I'm going to come out ahead because over the last 5 seasons, they've been hitting at a 60% clip. Primetime, games often invite overs and exciting, sexy matchups. So I'm happy to be the contrarian. And we have an offense that features Caleb Williams and the Bears, who created less than 150 total yards of offense last week, 2.8 yards per play. A crazy stat that I saw was 35% of the plays that they ran resulted in 0 or negative yards. I mean, that's rough stuff. So it's not just that, Caleb Williams is having a tough time and now does not have a great route runner in Keenan Allen out there to be a reliable target. But, the run game, like Sia mentioned, had a tough time going too. And I think they're going to struggle here. D'Amico Ryan's good game planner. I think he'll do well against Caleb Williams in a raucous environment in his first road primetime start. And on the other end, of course, if we're betting an under in a CJ Stroud game, we're going to have to sweat him in the offense. But, there are some holes there. He was pressured and sacked some of the most out of any quarterback in week 1. So their protection isn't wonderful. And the Bears, they're going to hang their hat on their defensive identity this year. Linebacker like Tremaine Edmonds, really holding it down in the middle there. And Jalen Johnson was actually the best ranked cornerback in PFF out of any coverage grade, out of any corner in week 1. So I'm going to rely on the Bears to keep the Texans to a low enough number and hit this under 45.5, right through that key number of 45. I see it's coming down to 44.5. So make sure you get above 45 there. And I think we can hit another prime time under. They're 2-2-1 so far. I think we're due to hit one.
I would say two. Oh yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I see Bo in the chat talking about showdown plays, which made me realize why Proppy didn't show up today is because we showed down and I said Bills money line. He said Dolphins and I said the next primetime show, whoever loses, since we're both Philly fans, has to wear a Cowboys jersey on the next primetime show.
No wonder. I would not be anywhere near
I love Proppy and I'll go to war with him. I do think he actually owes Katie Mox he had to wear a 49ers jersey. I'm not sure he actually ended up getting the Niners jersey and wearing it, which, again, fine. I wasn't going to buy a Notre Dame jersey. Brady had to send me one.
He's an Eagles fan, right? Proppy's an Eagles fan?
Yeah.
It was Eagles, Niners. Niners stomped him. Yeah, so it's like it's a tough scene. Okay. Yeah, as Harry points out, he never did, but that's okay. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, too, on the under, I think with these two offensive coordinators, one thing that's kind of an interesting angle is, we have two guys that are considered, innovative, younger offensive coordinators. Shane Waldron, I have major questions about. I think you saw in Seattle, not necessarily like the world's, the world's greatest offense. And then he goes to Chicago and you see what they do in week 1, 2.9 yards per play. Very, very bad. Basically washing Cole Kmet out. He didn't play Jackson Smith and Jigba at all as a rookie. And Rome Odunze had to sort of sneak his way on the field last week. And then with Bobby Slowick, who I think is a really good offensive coordinator, but worth noting that Bobby Slowick, especially last year, would run a lot on first down. And so you could get some of these maybe behind the sticks, Texans punt. I think too, Texans get a bigger lead and they will take the air out of the ball and pound Mixon. So I don't mind that under at all. I've got to book some showdown spots myself. So I'll take a look at that. But I would think with Keenan out, Mixon's a pretty good captain option, honestly. If you think that, you could go, this might be a night for defenses and Mixon and then sprinkle Stroud and some of the passers in the flex spots. Okay. Let's go to. I have the Texans -6 in this one, by the way. But my picks have been trash. I just think they're a much better team right now. I think Chicago's still figuring it out. And week 2, not necessarily a full extent. We saw some offensive explosions this week, but for a team with a new OC, a rookie quarterback, DJ Moore has been there, but he's still adjusting to Caleb Williams, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze new, right? DeAndre Swift new. They're still all trying to get these pieces in place. For the Texans, the only thing that's new is Stephon Diggs, and they manufacture a lot of touches around the line of scrimmage for him that are sort of easy button stuff. And so I think the Texans have a lot better segue into performing well this evening. Also, their offensive line might be a top 5 unit, and that's kind of flying under the radar. Okay.
And the way the kickers are going, Brinson, this year, Kaimi Fairbairn could cover this -6 with 357 yarders. My goodness, they're automatic to start the season. So he's definitely one of them. He's having a kicker like that helps you get to this number.
Also a good showdown play, by the way. Speaking of showdown,
Fairbairn, yeah. Stanford Stan Robert, you can come in. I mean, I'm just enthralled that my son is actually like watching a football stream, so bear with me. But that means I stand for Matthew Stafford. It's going very, very poorly at this current juncture of my life. Let's get to player props. Sia, I see one on here that I very much like from you involving Caleb Williams, and you got outs to get there with it.
Yeah, I'm going with Caleb Williams over completions 19.5. Last time I did this was Monday night with Tua. He was on 17 with about 6 minutes left in the third quarter. He's probably going to get to 27 or 28, and obviously that didn't work out for obvious reasons. But I really like these pass attempt and completion props. Now, normally with a guy like Caleb, who I don't really like in terms of efficiency, I would normally go to the pass attempts of 33.5 with him, or actually I think it's 34.5. But because he's throwing the ball so close to the line of scrimmage, and because he's going to be in a negative game script, and I think he will test the DBs down the field here and there, but I think we're going to look at a lot of safe targets in a negative game script. So I think 19.5 is really a low number. I think like there will be a lot of like time of possession issues here. I mean, if you looked at the Bears last week, they only had the ball for 25 minutes, whereas the Titans had it for almost 35 minutes. I think that will equal out a little bit. I do worry that the Texans are going to have the ball a long time, but even if that's true, it still means that they pay off with some scores and the Bears are in a negative game script. So again, I think Caleb Williams, particularly in the second half, trailing in the game, I think he's going to have to dink it and dunk it down the field, because that's the only way he's going to be able to succeed down the field in this one. So give me the over 19.5 completions.
All right. Danny, what do you like from a player prop perspective?
Yeah, if I was going to play a prop tonight, I think I like what you guys are putting down with Joe Mixon over rush yards. 30 carries last week. I mean, workhorse back, like looking in vintage form. If it's a positive game script like we all think it should be for the Texans tonight, then he's going to get the bulk of the work. The Bears secondary is the best part of their defense. And I don't think that Stroud will not be able to figure it out, so to speak, but having just a steady back like Mixon makes that offense so much more dangerous. And I think they'll utilize him once more. So, 66.5. I mean, feels like definitely a playable number for a guy that's getting 30 carries in a game, right? So I'd take that for sure.
For sure. I like this is a little juicy, but that's okay. And the reason why I put it in here is actually that I saw CJ Stroud's over, and this is more like CJ Stroud's over for passing touchdowns is 1.5, and it was minus 155 to go over that. But I was poking around and shopping, searching around, and found CJ Stroud 2+ touchdown passes for minus 140. Now I mean that's just sometimes with all the props that are being made available to us on all the different sports books, you're gonna have something like that slip through the cracks. That's a 15-cent difference. That's a massive, massive deal. And if 155 is pretty steep to lay, but I feel okay with laying that minus 140 on CJ Stroud, 2 passing touchdowns. I think the Bears are particularly in the red zone will stack the box. And we saw Slowick and company get creative with the offense and with Stephon Diggs around the goal line. They sort of used him. I think it was like I can't remember if it was a jet sweep or he ran behind Stroud, but they had that little dump off short to the right or short to the left, in week 1. And I think they'll do some of that stuff near the goal line. Diggs, by the way, I think his ADOT was his average depth of whatever it was, he was very low. And I think that's probably going to be his sort of calling card with the Texans, where it's going to be short. Like, I wouldn't mess with Diggs' yardage over, but I would think about taking receptions over. And my second prop, Stephon Diggs' longest reception under 20.5. I think it's a really good look, and you're going to need him to I don't think you're going to get something where he's 20 yards down the field and they complete the pass. It's do they run sort of a gimmick gadget play near the line of scrimmage? He gets the ball and just has a wide lane. You lose it. But I think that under on that longest reception for Diggs is a pretty good look. Any thoughts on those?
I love the longest reception under. Go ahead, Danny.
No, yeah, you take it away, Sia.
No, I mean, I think the longest reception under is a really smart play. I mean, I think it's probably Nico, but certainly Tank Dell that's going to be down the field. The only way Diggs gets that, because you're right, all of the passes were near the line of scrimmage, is, to your point, I mean, I think he really just said this. If he just has the right angle against the defender, and he can extend a 6-7 yard slant into a 20-25 yard gain. But longest reception under for Diggs makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I think so too. I'll be dialed in on their, how they run routes tonight, because I think he's going to be the drag guy, right? Running outs, running quick stick routes, first down, and a lot of underneath stuff. So I think you're onto it with that.
It's funny because in the model, when Diggs you got traded here, it was like, okay, well, what does that do for this team? But when you're talking about a team and a Stroud who already led the league in average passing yards per game, like when you're already at the ceiling, it's hard. You're getting better at something you were already at the best at, essentially. But I think what it does do for this offense, when you get to, the red zone, now it's like you can't double team one guy. You have, I think 3 receivers that could win a one-on-one trying to get a touchdown. And that is what he opens up for this offense. I don't think he, on paper, is going to move the needle in the model, but when it comes to the red zone, that is when he really becomes impactful here.
I'll be curious too, because I think that in week 1, they definitely were, I don't want to say forcing it because that implies like sort of negative. But I think they wanted to make sure that, Stephon Diggs got 2 touchdowns. They wanted Diggs is Diggs. I think he's a great player, but the dude, is a bit of a drama queen. He was welcome in Minnesota. They trade him. He blows up in Buffalo immediately. I think he's going to have a really good year. I don't know about the long-term viability of it just because of how he's sort of been in his stops in the NFL. But I think that they wanted to manufacture touches and get him scores and get so nobody's like, oh, does Diggs matter on this team? I think tonight might be maybe all right, we got Diggs and Steph, you got your stuff in week 1. Let's get some looks to Nico Collins and Tank Dell down the field. But yeah, I think Diggs certainly helps the team out in terms of diversifying what their options are at wide receiver. Kens, what does the model like from a prop perspective?
We got 3 props tonight here. We're looking at Herbert over 12.5 rushing yards. We have him projected for 33, and I think it is a good buy low spot on week 1 where he really did not do too much. I think he had 2 carries for 4 yards. But you look at Swift, it's not like he was very efficient himself, 30 yards on 10 carries. So I don't see him necessarily earning, the share again in week 2. And the overall in Herbert's career is 15-5 on the road, and he was 10-2 to this in the 2023 season. So again, I don't know if we'll see. We're looking at a coaching staff that saw him run for 124 yards and 112 yards in week 16 and 17 of last season. So I have to imagine he gets involved. Then we're going to go to Stroud to throw an interception. We have this hitting in 67% of the simulation. So to get it around even money is a pretty good deal here. It just feels like the way he is playing is unsustainable. How good is touchdown to interception ratio is. He hasn't thrown one in his past 8 games, which is like 230 pass attempts. So I hate to be the guy that says he's due, but if there is a secondary that would happen against, I think it is the Chicago secondary, tied for first in the league last year with interceptions with San Francisco at 22. And then we're going to go Kmet over 2.5 receptions. I like this a lot more than his yards. I know a lot of people are talking about it in the chat, but you can get this for close to plus 125 on a lot of books. So I think the plus money play is certainly worth it over the yards. And we're talking about the injuries on this team. Might be one of few healthy 100% receivers good to go on this offense.
Yeah, and with that pass rush that the Texans have and that defense in general, it wouldn't be entirely shocking if the Bears said, let's bring, with no Keenan Allen, we're not going to go. And for whatever reason, Shane Waldron loves Gerald Everett. Maybe they go like 2 tight ends out there and use Kmet to chip more or something like that. All right, we've got some questions in the chat. If you have questions for specific props, get them in now. We're going to answer them. First up, Cole Kmet over 19.5 receiving yards. Kens, I assume you're down with that?
Look, we have him for 36 yards, but you're paying juice on that when you could get plus money for the over. I think he'll have 3 receptions given the health of this offense right now. And even if they're, if he gets pressured, we could see some, dumps to him instead of some long carries. So I think the receptions is the play.
Thoughts on Kmet? Yeah, I agree with you. You go receptions on plus money. He could get, who knows? He get 3 5-yard catches, and you still go over that. Right. Probably needs at least 2 to go over 19.5 anyway. Caleb Williams under 217 passing yards and over 4.5 rushing attempts. Thoughts on those guys?
I don't know if I'm in love with the rushing attempts. I'm not mad at it, but the Texans actually didn't get great pressure, even though they added guys like Danielle Hunter to that line. I still want to see them do a little more. So I'm not sure if he's forced to take off as much, even if you're thinking, he's going to be in a negative game script. He's going to struggle on offense once again. Maybe he'll look to use his legs and his athleticism. So that could be your angle on the over there. But I think I would look towards Caleb Williams unders. I think I'm even interested in CJ Stroud unders. I'm unders all the way in this game. I think it might be more defensive than we expect.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I like CJ Stroud unders as well, not as official plays, but I do think, to your point earlier, Will, I think it's a pretty heavy Joe Mixon game. I mean, maybe we see Cam Akers come in here as well, but I looked at the combo line for Joe Mixon. It was 93.5. I mean, that was probably a little too rich for me. I wanted it to be a little bit lower, but if it is a Joe Mixon game, then we're not, and especially if Caleb can't push the ball down the field to score. Now, keep in mind, I like him to push for completions because he's just throwing it so close to the line of scrimmage in a likely negative game script, but that doesn't mean they're going to score. And if that happens, you take the air out of the ball for CJ Stroud, especially when it comes to the deep ball. I mean, I think you mentioned Stephon Diggs. I think we could see some Stephon Diggs work, but we're talking again near the line of scrimmage, a lot of Joe Mixon, a couple of deep shots here and there. The question is, do they need to throw it down the field? Caleb probably does. I don't know that CJ Stroud does. So I'm more interested in a CJ Stroud yardage under than I am Caleb Williams.
Yeah, under 269.5, Sia. I think that's definitely maybe worth a play. I might actually take a stab at that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think if you like the under in the game in general, you would expect, like, you have a 6-point favorite, you like the under. It means that the Texans have a lead and they're working the game clock, and that Stroud's not throwing a ton. And also, and this is entirely possible, that the Texans are able to run on the Bears. You know, like they're able to just get downhill and pound the ball. I mean, we saw, I feel like the Titans Titans are a weird team to watch, man. Like every week. What is Will Levis is like doing like the weirdest, stupidest thing every week? It's like last week he's going to do the surrender cobras. He's throwing a pick 6. And then this week he's like launching himself like a belly flop and throw it behind a backwards lateral. It's
when you put mayo in your coffee, nobody knows what's next.
Exactly. I had one of our colleagues text me a picture. It was Will Levis like this, but Pete Prisco's face photoshopped in. This is Pete wrote a whole story about it. It was pretty solid. I
met Will Levis the summer before his first season. Or the summer going into his first season. Kind of a weird guy. And apparently that's one of few NFL players I've met, but him and then Cooper DeJean. Now my guys at work are making fun of me that I have a curse on meeting NFL players, and then they start to play really poorly. So Sorry, Will Levis, if that is my fault. My public apology is here.
No, it's Pete's fault. He wrote about Tuscany, Italy in a column about Will Levis. It was ridiculous. We've got J-Rod asks, do you like Joe Mixon at 70.5 rushing yards, Danny?
Yes, I mentioned, what was it, 66.5, 68. I think I'm still there. Anything under, let's call it 75, I think I'd be comfortable with. But yeah, if I'm thinking that it's an under CJ Stroud passing yards night, then it means it's an over Joe Mixon rushing yards night.
Okay. I agree with that. I think Mixon's over. I actually think if you're doing a parlay of any sort, or if you feel like if you're going to ladder anybody in this game, it'd be Joe Mixon for me. Like upwards of 110, I think is a reasonable spot to. I was building a parlay before we started. Then I realized I should utilize you smart people to help my parlay. And I had Mixon as 110 rushing yards is like 4-1, which is, get that juice up a little bit.
As a parlay leg, I love it. You're just going to the moon.
Speaking of Will, real quick, because you mentioned laddering, and I don't want to forget, Tank Dell is probably a great candidate as a ladder play. And I'm not saying he's even going to hit his total of 56.5, but if this becomes a higher scoring game than we think, if it's a bit of a back and forth, I mean, even if it's not, frankly, if Tank Dell, if his stat line is, let's say, 6 targets and 4 catches, those 4 catches could be 89 yards, could be 101 yards. So you just never know with Tank Dell. And we really haven't seen him splash since the injury because he's only played the 1 week and he was fine last week. But he would be a guy that I really think could get beyond the defense maybe more than once. And so that would be a pretty good ladder guy for me.
I agree with that completely. And I also think with Dell, we're probably going to see a lot of the focus in the secondary for the Bears shifted to Nico Collins and Steph Diggs. I mean, that's just the beauty of having those 3 wide receivers, and Dell could get loose. All right, Ramo asked this about 14 times, so we're going to make sure we answer. DJ Moore, 5.5 receptions, over or under?
I said we haven't projected for 4.6, so I think if you're paying for it, I wouldn't. If you're getting plus money, I think it's worth a sprinkle, but not my favorite play here.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that landing on the hook right there because you got to figure that he'll look to use more in some maybe short, quick, like Sia was mentioning, the over completions for Williams. So I like the idea of short ADOT stuff. But, man, 5.5. I feel like he's so likely to have 5 tonight.
Yeah.
Also worth noting too that I mean, I don't know that he's going to travel per se, but Derek Stingley Jr. in week 1 looked incredible. Like, you know, I mean, top 5 pick, I guess, and possible all pro season coming. So I would just be a little wary of if he's getting the full DJ Moore assignment, that could be problematic. And Kamari Lassiter has been very good as a rookie as well. All right, let's get to any time touchdown scores. What does the model's been on? Do we go 2-1 on Thursday? 1-2 maybe?
I don't remember Thursday. Overall, we're up. That I do know. It's been a pretty good season.
The problem on Thursday was the Dolphins didn't do anything, and then Tua got hurt. So
yeah,
like, overs in that game kind of got, pardon the pun, cooked.
They did. I do feel good about these because it seems like the chat is also on a lot of these that we were talking about. Diggs for obvious reasons. I mean, if we were to set the line, if the model were to set a line, we'd make it -120. So to get plus basically 120, I think is pretty good odds. All for the things I was talking about earlier. You know, it's like he does. While it's not the overall offense, he's improving the wide receiver touchdown production because everyone will be single covered. It feels like this could be a good spot for him. And he had 2 touchdowns in week 1. And then let's talk about Tank Dell as well. Could be another beneficiary of the eyeballs being on the other 2 receivers. Again, +140 is where we would set it. So you're getting some value there. And DJ Moore, again, talking about healthier, right? Just one a few healthy targets. We have a Dunze, not going to be great. Keenan Allen out. Cole Kmet was really only targeted once. I think that goes up, but I still think there's still value on Moore here. And again, Caleb Williams is only projected for 1.2 passing touchdowns in the model, and it looks like Moore has kind of been the overwhelming likely recipient for him.
I love it. Any you guys have any thoughts on anytime touchdown scores you want to add to that?
Go ahead, Danny.
It's like I want to say something Bears, but I'm so tentative to do anything offensive on the Bears side. And then I don't want to overload on Texans either and just kind of have one game script that I'm betting on, right? If I'm going to sprinkle the board and give ideas on different, wager types, then let's look at different angles. But I got to feel like Mixon gets in. We're talking about the heavy workload for his workhorse running back. And I think that's the one I'd go with.
I think Rome Odunze is, by the way, I love Mixon too. You know, you have to probably pay a little bit of a price, probably in that -135 to -140 range. But Rome Odunze is interesting to me. Obviously, there's the health concern, but I trust that if they're putting him on the field to start the game, he's going to finish the game unless, like, you know, obviously something gets severely aggravated there. He is such a good guy at the point of catch. I watched enough of him at Washington to know that, like, if you have to throw him a jump ball, which, oh, by the way, Caleb Williams just loves to do and did at USC all the time, Rome Odunze is your guy. You have no Keenan Allen. DJ Moore really isn't that guy. That's the guy that's going to beat you down on a fly route or down the seam for a long bomb. So I think Rome Odunze, again, if we assume a trailing game script, especially if we think that you're going to have to throw it up at a couple points in the second half just to compete, Rome Odunze is that guy that can jump up, bring it down and score a touchdown. So +300 or longer, which is what you're getting on Rome. I think that's a decent play.
I dig it. I'm like trying to put together a parlay of sorts, see what's, but before I do that, I should note that we've all had our first touchdown bet called back before, and BetMGM is giving you a second chance with BetMGM's Pro Football Second Chance. Place any first touchdown score bet, and if your player doesn't score first but scores second, you get your entire stake back in cash. No opt-in required. Here's how it works. Place a pre-game straight first touchdown score bet in any NFL game. If your player scores the first touchdown in the game, you win your wager as normal. If the player scores the second touchdown in the game, you'll get your stake back in cash. It's that simple. Log into BetMGM for more details. Okay, so very quickly, we don't have a graphic or anything for this, but I've got a 50% boost token on a parlay that I've got to use for, or it expires. Like, I'm not going to bet it. Like, what are we doing? So I put together a parlay. I'm going to bet 11 is my lucky number. I'm going to bet $11.11 on it. What do we think about Joe Mixon, alt rushing yards, 110?
Wow. Here we go.
What?
It's not where I saw this going, but I'm in.
Buckle up.
Right. Tank Dell, alt receiving yards, 80. Not crazy. Tank Dell, anytime score. Joe Mixon, anytime score. DJ Moore, anytime score. And CJ Stroud, over 1.5 passing touchdowns.
Whew.
Now, it seems like a lot of scoring. The problem with these parlays is that for instance, you can't bet the under on longest completion or the under on completion or attempts or completions in these parlays, and there's a reason why. Like you really have, if you want to get I want a big juicy, like I'm doing the Tom Cruise risky business, like sliding across my floor, like with a glass of wine when it hits, like type of like splash parlay. Like this one with the boost would pay out $2,200. Right.
Well, how about this? How about you take at least a couple of those touchdown scores out, because I don't think the game's going to be that high scoring. But you throw in an anytime touchdown for, wait for it, folks, Cam Akers. If we assume at plus 650, you throw that into your parlay, you're making so much money, you're going to Venmo me by the end of the night.
Okay.
If this game gets away from the Bears, which I'm not saying it will, but that's certainly one of the potential outcomes. Joe Mixon isn't seen late in the game. Cam Akers is seen. And I'm just saying he could fall into the end zone in the fourth quarter.
See, you know, what is it? What are the, I'm not like, what is people say, like, what's your love language? Like, that's my love language. Like working Cam Akers anytime touchdown, 7.5 to 1 into this monster parlay. Now we're talking. All right. So I think I like the idea of Dell and Mixon anytime. I think we get a shot to Mixon. I think we get a shot to Dell. Dell gets over 80 yards. I don't think that's crazy. Right. I think the Mixon 110, should I dial that back to like 90 or 100?
I mean, if you're throwing Cam Akers in, listen, you're talking about a combo line there, right?
I'm going to take out Stroud's anytime. I was taking out Stroud 2 touchdown passes. Right. Should I take out DJ Moore anytime touchdown too?
Take DJ Moore out. I think you can keep everything else in. I would take DJ
so
Moore.
We haven't really – go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying we haven't really talked about DeAndre Swift here, one of my Georgia Bulldog former Eagles, who I always have to get them into the conversation. I wonder what his receiving yard line is, 14.5. I feel like if he gets in the end zone, it's a receiving touchdown. Like this is a touchdown producing offense, I would say, given everybody's cards last year and the way they still produced. And without Khalil Herbert here, I think they're both receiving backs. Or no, we have Khalil Herbert, my bad. But even just having Keenan Allen out, like it's just another receiving touchdown opportunity for somebody else. And Swift is very comfortable in that situation.
Agree.
Worth noting too, Roschon Johnson, he was inactive week 1. He is actually active for this game, I believe. He's not on the list there for the Bears. So I mean, like that's a little wrinkle in that, but I don't hate it. I mean, that's why they brought Swift in. And if they're trailing, they're going to be dumping it off. I mean, this current parlay of Mixon 110, Dell anytime, Dell 80 yards, Mixon anytime. This is basically just Texans hit up Dell early and pound the ball, and then Cam Akers anytime is $11 to win $6,000. So
why not you?
Yeah,
11-11.
Yeah, 11-11 to win $6,100. Yeah,
I love that.
He is getting a Venmo if Cam Akers like crashes the end zone to complete this. All right, we'll pop this in. Let's get weird.
11 is my roulette number, so vibes. I like it.
Mine too. Black. Yeah, I always say black 11, but 11 is always black, so it's stupid to say that. But I walk into a casino and throw $10 on that. Things you could throw $10 on include as well a first touchdown scorer. We still don't have one. How is it possible?
It's all chalk. It's been people under 10 to 1 every single week.
It's been the lead running back. It's been the star wide receiver. Been who would have guessed that one? You know, there it goes. So we're gonna get a cheeky one soon.
All right. Well, our rule is it's got to be 10 to 1 or higher to throw up the diamond hands. Sia, you have the lowest odds, but probably the one I like the best based on the parlay I just gave out and well within the rules. Who you got?
Yeah, I like to find the 25 to 35 to 1 guys. Shout out Brevin Jordan, just saying. But the guy I'm picking is the guy that I think gets behind the defense, that gets maybe less attention than your Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs. Great last year, probably going to be great again this year. It's Tank Dell. This number is the right number. Don't get me wrong. It's not like it should be plus 900, but you're getting plus 1,200 for Tank Dell. And I really think he's viable to score a touchdown, but certainly to take the top off the defense early and score the first touchdown.
I dig it. Kins, did Cole Kmet go to Georgia? It was like, what's the deal?
No, I just find myself like hyper fixating on certain tight ends, and he just seems to be one of them. Like, I feel like this is a tight end prop. If I'm going to get my first gem, I just know it will be with a tight end, but I think he's going to be a sleeper pick. Like, I don't think the defense will be giving him much attention, and I think I could see them going up and scoring first, given how awesome this Bears secondary is, and Houston could have a hard time. So I like Kmet. I like him to have a big breakout game. At the end of the day, this is a tight end one. No matter how many receivers and awesome guys there is on their team, you need a tight end. And I think if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it the right way. This is the Ken's way with the tight end.
Okay. Danny. Whew. By the way, I'm absolutely going to call you Donnie at some point over the course of these shows, just so you know. Don't be offended.
Oh, man. I think I have the same.
I know. You went off the board with this one. I dig it.
You know, man, if we're going to get our first one, why not make it funky? And I'm going with a narrative here, right? The rookie Caleb Williams continues to struggle. First road primetime game. The stadium's bumping down there in Houston, and he throws a pick six to the Houston Texans defense. First touchdown score, plus 4,000. So, yeah, I feel like
there's 2 gems if you get there.
Yeah,
you get double diamonds.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
I mean, you know, I had Alan Lazard one show, and he got in twice, but not first. So I feel like I'm due.
I just used the BetMGM. My BetMGM account is flush. Shout out to them hanging a 178.5 passing yards from Malik Willis on Friday as I one-handed the officers. You just says texting and driving. It doesn't say betting and driving. Okay, like I'm like pulling up to the stoplight. Like the line, the juice moved to minus 135 as I was trying to jam it in. But nevertheless, it is. I am flush there. So I just went with Tank Dell, Brevin Jordan 22-1. That feels short, doesn't it?
It does. It's 30-1 at other places.
Okay, so shop around for that one for sure. Yeah. I will, however, also sprinkle on my pick, which is Caleb Williams at 22-1. Now, here's the thing. When you go with the first touchdown scorers, sometimes you have to go against how you think the game will actually go. And if you look at my picks today, that happens a lot in the NFL. So I mean, nothing wrong with taking that approach. The Bears, by virtue of being 6-point dogs, their first touchdown scoring odds are higher, right? And so Caleb Williams, this is a situation. This is a guy that we saw in the preseason. I think we'll see it more and more when they're in the red zone. If he gets any pressure, or like, I don't think it'll be designed. I think it'll be a scramble. And he rolls out to his left and dives in. I think 22-1 for a guy with his rushing prowess is really kind of long. So I'm going to take Caleb Williams at 22-1 and hope that. So I got Caleb. So he has Tank Dell. Ken has Cole Kmet, and Danny has Texans defense. I think we get one of these this evening. Yeah, it's time. We're due. And like we said, you know, the BetMGM option, second touchdown scorer. So if I understand this correctly, I have 2 chances with 2 guys now because I took Dell and Caleb Williams. If either of them scores a first or second, so what if you can win both? That's kind of cool. I like this from BetMGM. Like if Tank Dell's the first touchdown scorer, my Caleb Williams is second touchdown scorer, it's double diamond hands for me in my account, not on the show. Anyway, let's look at the recap. We have a recap. I've got the Texans -6, CJ Stroud 2+ passing touchdowns. I love all Joe Mixon stuff too as well. And then Stephon Diggs, longest reception under 20.5. Sia has the Texans -6. Caleb Williams over 19.5 completions. Danny's got the under 45.5. And Ken's, I know there's up on the board, but I don't want to break from tradition. What is the model like?
We're going Herbert over 12.5 rushing yards. I saw someone just asking about that. Love that play. Stroud to throw an interception. And Cole Kmet, my guy, so help me God, he better have a big night. Over 2.5 receptions.
And just for the record, like the reason why I asked kids to do it is that like I think the first night that we did this, the recap didn't have the model plays. And I was like, hope you know what you've got. And fortunately she did. All right. Any other thoughts before we get out of here? Oh, by the way, Sean Ritchie says Dell 70 receiving yards and Mixon 70 rush yards is plus 335. That's
strong.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah, that's a good look. I like that.
Not quite the rocket ship that Brinson was building, but I like it. That's feasible.
Yeah. If I hit that parlay, I will be literally recreating the Tom Cruise scene in that show. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks for watching. They're just sliding around in my underwear and socks. Is my 10-year-old is like, Dad, what aren't you a dad? What are you doing? Anywho, that'll do it for us. For Danny, for Sia, for Kens, I'm Brinson. Thanks for watching.